Hello and welcome to the Global Church Project. I'm Graham Hill. William Ouma was born and raised in Western Kenya. He leads Harvest Land Ministries International, a non-profit, non-denominational organisation whose purpose is to present Jesus Christ as the only way for reconciliation between people and God and people and each other. Their vision is to present Christ throughout Africa and the rest of the world. William Ouma, welcome to the Global Church Project.
Thank you.
You lead Harvest Land Ministries. Can you tell us something about when that ministry started and what's your vision for the ministry?
I began Harvest Land Ministries in 1989. Vision is for evangelism, church planting, discipleship, leadership training, mercy and development programs.
What do you do in evangelism?
In evangelism, we do crusades, open air, big crusades in the, in the open ground. We also do house to house or one-on-one, and, just share the word of God.
And what kind of church planting do you do?
We actually go into villages and rural areas, even in cities. And as we do the evangelistic outreaches, there are places that really require a church so that these people may be, discipled. In such circumstances, we do plant a church.
And the leadership training, what form does that take?
It has many phases. Number one, like when we began, we really wanted to kind of raise up many leaders to catch up with the the churches that we are working on. But what happened is we didn't, taking them to school for 4 years was going to take a long time to be able to, bring. So we started with seminars. We have what we call intensive programs that we bring them in for 2 weeks. And they are so intensive that they are working from like 8 till 9 in the night with breaks in between. And so they get a whole staff within a very short period. And so, that one has now also brought about, the schools. We now have a Bible college that we are trying to now, work with for longer and more depth training staff.
And how many students are studying currently in your Bible college?
We have 60.
60, yeah. And is Harvest Land Ministries a church also?
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Can you give us a sense about the size of the church, its makeup, ages and that kind of thing?
Yeah, as a church division, to begin with, Harvest Land Ministries right now is in 8 countries.
Yep.
In 8 countries, we have a total of 270 congregations. And so some of the congregations are small in size, depending on where they are and, because of the distance also. Most of these rural places, they don't have transportation, so you wouldn't really expect people to come from, far places. They come by walking or riding a bicycle. And their roads are not paved either. And so, but we also have larger churches that have like 1,000 and over members. So you can have a church of 15 people to a church of over 1,000 within the 270 churches.
And those 270 churches in 8 countries, are they all in Africa, those 8 countries?
Yeah, mostly in Africa. We only have one in the United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the countries in Africa that
we are in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda. We are in Congo, in Rwanda, in Burundi, in South Sudan.
Can you tell us something about your projects with HIV/AIDS sufferers, rehabilitation centres, orphanages? You've got a whole range of projects. So could you talk us through some of those?
We have, like you said, a whole range of projects. We like for HIV, the whole part of East and Central Africa mostly, were really affected by AIDS, and so many children remained behind. And so for a church to be relevant to the community that was going through such situations, we had to come up with a program that would answer to that. And number one, as much as we were taking them in and training them and helping them, we also needed to counter more, of the problem. And so we started, this particular project to be able to meet that need. We also have, one that and of course this one is also as a result of this, plus other calamities, the orphans and vulnerable children. There are vulnerable, some of them are vulnerable because they are aid orphans, and some of them are not. They are just, they come from, like in where I live, I have, there is a community there. And what they believe in is girls are married away when, like from 11 years on. So they are given to an older man, maybe around 30, 40, and as long as they have the money. And so they give a gift to the parents, and then they can now live on because of the poverty issue. And so with that, these girls, if they refuse the proposal of the parents, they are sent away. They are like sent away as outcasts, and they don't belong to that family, and they don't need them anymore. So these girls end up on the street, and so they don't have a place to go. So we began by bringing them into our home, and getting along with them, and so it became very difficult. Like I'll give you one example. This year, in May, my family, I and my wife, and of course my children, we sat down and discussed about the same. We were looking for a home where we can put these girls, because there are many now, we can't just accommodate them in a home. So we decided the best thing is, let's build a home for them. And then it will be easier to have now foster parents coming in, and then we can do the supervision from that angle. And we didn't have the finances. And so I was convicted. I don't have the finances, but I said, the best thing I will do, we will sell our home. And we did sell our home in May. And the money that we got from that is not enough to complete, the whole project, but it has helped us to start off the first phase of the project.
What are your greatest joys and also your greatest heartaches in this kind of ministry? The greatest, what I would call the hard part of it, is trying to meet the need. Because, from going yourself alone is very difficult. Because number one, you are not going to answer every need. I mean, I usually tell people, there is God, but I'm not He. He has all the power, He has all the provision, but I'm not He. My resources are limited. I mean, I only depend on what I can be able to get. However, there is, we do struggle, but our heart is in it. So it is that is the greatest challenge that I have. The greatest joy is when you see, these goals accomplished. I'll give you an example. Several years back, about 8 years ago, we brought in some young girls in the state that I've narrated before. We picked them, we brought them into our home. That's how we started. And they grew up from there. We took them to the schools around, talked to the teachers, and they accommodated them. We were paying for all their needs and stuff, and they become like more of a family to us. Some of these girls have now completed college. There is specifically one that has completed university,
He is now a lawyer and he's working for the Kenyan government today. He is in charge of registration of churches in the country of Kenya. Now, my joy is when I go to see her there, the other ordinary citizens going into that office, they are seeing an officer of the government serving them in that particular law, office. But me going in there, I'm seeing a street girl who was so desperate, frustrated, with no hope in life, now transformed because of the act of, mercy, and now having hope in life, getting bread for herself and planning for her own future. She doesn't need my support anymore. She doesn't need donors anymore. But she now is contributing towards the same support to help others. That is my joy. Just seeing them accomplished, fulfilled, and they have attained, what I would say, some fulfillment. They're like successful. They have gotten to the very end of it. That is my joy.
What do you think are the greatest challenges facing the church today?
The church has so many challenges. Number one being the church is still in this society that has so many other problems that the church needs to meet. And some of these needs or problems are what I would call irrelevant, in quotes, to the church, because the church has placed itself in a position where they are only looking at the spirituality of the people and neglecting the other portion which goes or makes spirituality sensible to the society.
And if you were to talk about the mission of the church, what is the mission of the church and how should it engage in that mission in the world today?
I think basically from my angle, it is twofold, and that would be evangelism, getting Christ known, and then number two, that this world may feel the same Christ with acts that, can make them know this is the love of Christ as far as they are concerned.
How can the church help people become disciples of Jesus Christ?
By reflecting the two that I've just talked about. Number one, unless we are able to communicate, proclaim this word, and unless we are able to also cause the world to feel the same proclaimed word, then there is no way we are going to achieve that.
Is there anything else you want to say to us today?
One thing that I would probably just add on to that is, it is my prayer today that the church today should move to the place of relevance. And besides the church, there are other arms of the church that are also helping to address these two things. I'll give you an example. I am struggling with these two aspects. We have the NGOs and the colleges, universities, and then, when I talk about NGOs, I'm talking about aid organizations that are involved in the support of meeting the physical part of, the mission of the church. And then there is the church, which is so concentrated on the spiritual part of it. Now, there is a disconnect at this particular point, the way I'm looking at it. A disconnect in the sense that the church is busy pushing its own agenda and leaving the other part, the physical part outside. The agenda of the spirituality, and that is it. The NGOs, the aid organization, and the other, they are busy pushing their particular part also. But now the issue is they are not bringing all. They are not bringing all these together to bring the whole mission of the church to be seen by the world.
Well, William Ouma, thank you for joining us at the Global Church Project.
Thank you.
The Global Church Project is located at www.theglobalchurchproject.com. On our website you'll find a wide range of interviews and resources for colleges, universities and churches. I look forward to your company next time. From me, goodbye.